¿Qué tal, amigos de Índigo GEEK? En esta ocasión estamos de mesa larga justamente porque tenemos a Noëmi Couté, que es el Design Lead de Teamfight Tactics in Riot Games. Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet
I
you.
had the opportunity to play Teamfight Tactics when the Durante la Legend set arrived. It was a very interesting game, very tactic, very fast-paced.
Yes.
It was kind of a lot sometimes, but I wanted to ask you, what do you think it was the main goal when you and your team designed the latest set of the game?
Yeah, so I would say that Space Gods is a bit of an experiment for us. So this is the first time that we, have removed one of our longest-standing mechanics, which is the carousel.
Right.
So it's really a big experiment for us in what does it look like when we remove one of our oldest mechanics and one of something that players kind of expect every time they come into the game. But I also think this was a exploration into what really broadening the capabilities of our art team looks like. More so to say that they had a lot more control this time around, and we're a lot more at the forefront of the set. And I think I'm going to toot my own horn and say this, but I think it is one of the prettiest sets that we've ever launched.
Okay, right.
I think it is absolutely gorgeous.
I mean, the game is really visually appealing in the first. So I think that this last set is going to make a lot for the game. So you talked about mechanics.
Yeah.
How do your team decide which new mechanics are fun enough to keep and which ones are the ones that you say, I think these ones need to go in this one?
So we have a lot of, it really depends, but a lot of the times we are data driven. So we get a lot of data from, we have an insights team, which their entire job is to get us neutral data and create, find correlations and, ties between different data points. But then there's also, we rely on data from our regional partners because I only speak English and a little bit of French. So it's very hard for me to get data on LATAM, for example.
Right.
So we rely on our regional partners to get us that kind of data, because sometimes what works in one region really doesn't work in another. So we can't just go based on one. But then it also kind of depends. As we change the game, we're always trying to outdo ourselves, and we're always trying to make new things. And so sometimes, like as an example with our mechanic, we started off with this idea for this big open space where the gods kind of take up a big part of it and they're larger than life. And there really was only one place to put something like that. It was the carousel. And so it wasn't really that we thought the carousel needed to be removed. And, this was just part of our set mechanic. And so sometimes it's not because the mechanic is bad or something.
Yeah, right.
It's sometimes just we need space. TFT is kind of at its complexity cap, is what we say.
Right.
Like you said, it can be very overwhelming, and there's a lot of information to take in. So we don't want to go over that and just keep adding on top and more to learn. So we now, whenever we want to add a new mechanic in, we take a new mechanic out. But there's always some nuance. Like as an example, we received overwhelming feedback that we took out encounters, and people really did not like that, and they wanted them back. And so me and my team worked very hard the last 2 weeks to address other bits of feedback as well, but also encounters are coming back in our next patch. So it really depends. There's a lot of nuance.
Yeah, you say that the player feedback. How your team decide what to take from the player feedback and what to say, I don't think this is going to work, and how that process works?
Yeah, so there's always there's a very interesting perspective when we get specifically player feedback through like social media or forums or bug reports, things like that. When we get feedback in those, it's sometimes difficult for us, which is why we have teams that help us do this. It's difficult for us to understand what the true cause is, because sometimes people will be like, oh, well, this is bad because of this.
Yeah,
but it's not really what they think it is. And so the difficulty is we have to look at all the feedback and try to find the common threads And so sometimes, which is really interesting, players will all collectively say, this thing feels bad, we don't like this. But the numbers show that it's actually fine. But we still change it because what matters more is not the data, it matters how people feel. And so sometimes it also happens the opposite way. People will be like, wow, this thing is so strong. And then the numbers were like, no, it's not. But if you're happy, we're happy, you know? Because the goal of the game, and the goal for us is not to be correct. The goal is to make people happy and make sure people enjoy the game.
To finish, I want you to speak to your listeners and invite them to play Teamfight Tactics, and you tell them why they should play Teamfight Tactics.
Yes. I think that Teamfight Tactics is great because it's very accessible for everybody. You can play it on your phone, you can play it on your PC, you can play it on your tablet. I also think there's a lot of creative expression. The game is very fresh all the time. It changes every 4 months, so you're never going to get bored. There's always something new to try. And it plays with the Runeterra IP. So if you like Arcane, if you like League of Legends, if you like 2XKO, Legends of Runeterra, Riftbound, any of those games, we have all those characters in our game. They always do different things, and sometimes they do things that you've never seen them do before, and that is very fun. So I think if you like strategy, comp building, outsmarting your opponents, it's definitely the game for you. But also if you just like cute penguins, it's also the game for you.
That's a really good catch. The penguins are really cute.
It really is.
So, ya lo escucharon, vayan a jugar Teamfight Tactics, es un juego muy divertido. Lo que le decía es un juego que a veces es un poco too much, más overwhelming. Entonces, es muy divertido. Entonces, hay para que chequen también los próximos sets que van a llegar, the next sets that are arriving, and then, your teams are preparing. So, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Y ustedes sigan viendo porque aquí seguimos en la CCXP México 2016. No olviden visitar nuestras redes sociales, Índigo GEEK MX, también nuestro sitio web geek.reporteindigo.com. Sigan viendo.